Hello world, welcome to episode number 13 of the Jimmy Canz Show. Today we're going to be doing our mock draft special. This is my second one of these that is not wrestling related. As I've spoken about in the past, football is another pastime I enjoy quite a bit, so let's discuss a little bit about the upcoming NFL draft. So we're going to just be doing the first round of the draft with this. This is a unique year for the draft. Going to be entirely virtual. No one in attendance. So it'll be, a first. EA is actually going to be doing virtual stage walks, which should be interesting. So we'll get to see our first look at these rookies in the game earlier than normal. So that should be pretty cool. So let's get into it a little bit here. We're going to just cover the first round. So I don't want this video to get too long, obviously with 32 selections. It could be, but I want to break down a little bit, each team, and then, make the pick and my reasoning for it. So obviously, first up on the clock will be the Cincinnati Bengals. Organizationally, this team has not really changed from last year. Same ownership, same head coach. Coordinators really haven't changed. So, all of that is stable. Appears the organization is moving on from Andy Dalton. So, I, like everybody else, no real big surprise here. Bengals taking LSU quarterback, Ohio native, Joe Burrow. Burrow's probably considered the top quarterback in this draft, not considered the top player in this draft. And that would be Chase Young. Chase Young out of Ohio State would also be a very popular pick, for the Bengals. But, I think quarterback beats out edge rusher in this case. Those are probably the two most crucial positions in today's NFL. But, franchise quarterback, I just don't think you can afford to pass up on. So I, like pretty much everybody else, slot Joe Burrow in here. Next up will be the Washington Redskins. Here's where things could start to get interesting. Are they sold on Dwayne Haskins? And if they are they willing to move out of this spot for somebody that wants to come up for a quarterback? Honestly, I think you have an opportunity to take the best player in the draft here. If you don't feel you need a quarterback, and the best quarterback is already off the board, and it's the second most important position in the league, you can't pass up on it. So again, like I said, no change in ownership here, but change in coaching staffs. With Ron Rivera coming in, Ron Rivera is a defensive guy. That'll also contribute to this as well. So I have the Redskins taking Chase Young here at number 2. Next up, the Detroit Lions. Here's where I'm probably going to be different from a lot of other mock drafts. They've got Stafford there, who has been nursing some back issues and back injuries. So are they going to look to turn the page and grab a quarterback here? It's possible. They haven't been shy at acknowledging that they are open to move out of this spot either. A lot of people have them taking Ohio State's Jeffrey Okudah here. Like I said, I'm going to be the oddball here. I don't think they do. I think if corner was really, the concern, why they get rid of Slay. Yeah, they free up money by doing so, but it still doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me when you had the position, you know, addressed. I don't see moving them away just to take that position again and restructure money. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't think that is the soundest decision to make, especially because every draft pick is really a roll of the dice. When you had a proven corner, why take a corner that is unproven at the NFL level? So I'm going to be an oddball here, and I'm actually going to say that if they go offensive here, I think they're going to roll the dice and go with Stafford for another year. And I think that they actually look to get him, some dependable weapons, somebody to throw to. And I am going to have them take Alabama's Jerry Jeudy here, wide receiver, which, like I said, is going to probably raise some eyebrows. But that's just where my head is right now. I think they need to open up the offense. They need a dependable receiver, so that's where I've got them going. Next up, the New York Football Giants. Again, this is another organization. Obviously ownership is stable there until the Maritish family decides that they no longer want to own the team, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. Gettleman is still their GM, but, new coaching staff there. Joe Judge coming in from New England, replacing Pat Shurmur. Everybody under, them, is new as well in terms of the coordinators. So, what way do they go? Obviously, Eli has retired. Kind of turned the page last year with Daniel Jones. I think at this point you've got to protect your quarterback. Really doesn't matter who's under center if they've got no time to throw the ball. So I've got them going offensive tackle. A lot of different debate out there right now in terms of which tackles are best. Judge being a Belichick guy, disciple. Also, I believe Joe Judge did some coaching with Saban as well at Alabama. So I'm not going to be surprised if he leans on Alabama products here at this point. One of the best offensive tackle prospects in this draft. And that's the way I've got them going. And that would be Jedrick Wills, the big tackle out of Alabama. So there's your Giants pick. Number 5, Miami Dolphins. A lot of talk here about what the Dolphins do. Do they package some picks and move up to secure, a player? Do they stay pat and see how the board falls? In a mock, I'm not going to try and project trades. Are they going to happen? Yes. Do they always happen when you think they're going to happen? Not really. So trying to project it, just not feasible, in my opinion. So I'm not going to do it. And then, in this scenario, they stayed pat at 5. And the player that they probably are coveting most has fallen to them, and that is Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback out of Alabama. I know he's coming off the injury, that there are other injury concerns. He hasn't really been able to stay healthy during his college career, but it's a crapshoot anyway. You can take players that have no injury history and they get to the league and they can't stay healthy. You get guys that couldn't stay healthy in college, they get to the NFL, and then they never seem to get hurt. So, it is what it is. So, I've got, the Dolphins getting their man at number 5 without having to move up. Next up, the Los Angeles Chargers. Obviously they have moved on from Phillip Rivers, who has signed with the Colts. Do they go into next season with Tyrod Taylor at the helm? I don't think so. You know, we've heard the talk before with other organizations that had Taylor there. Oh, we're confident in Taylor, and blah, 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 blah. Those teams ended up taking a quarterback, and then before the season was over, the quarterback they took ended up, under center. So I think, this is rinse and repeat. So I think the Chargers do grab a quarterback here, and I think it will be Oregon's Justin Herbert. So there you have that one there. So now, the Carolina Panthers are up on the clock now here at number 7. What's interesting with this, new ownership came in last year, and now, they've got a new head coach in Matt Rule, coming from Baylor. They convinced Joe Brady after 1 year as the OC at LSU to come to the NFL. So, there's a lot of different moving pieces here, a lot of changes in Carolina. Moving on from Cam Newton, do they look at a quarterback here? With the top 3 quarterbacks off the board here, I would be shocked if they grabbed a quarterback here. I think they're going to ride with Teddy Bridgewater. I think there was a reason that they brought him in. So there's that, and here, he's slid a little bit from what other projections have, but here's where I think Ohio State's Jeffrey Okudah comes off the board, and this gives Carolina that presence at corner that they haven't really had probably since Josh Norman left several years back. So there's that. Number 8, the Arizona Cardinals. A lot of people were thinking the Cardinals were going to be looking for receivers, in this draft, but then, in this offseason, they've made some moves already, and addressed the receiver position, specifically by shipping David Johnson off to Houston and grabbing DeAndre Hopkins, probably the best hands in the NFL. So, you got DeAndre Hopkins, you still got Larry Fitz for another year. I don't think they're going to go wide receiver here at 8. I actually think that they're going to look to solidify their defensive front here. So I've got them taking Derek Brown out of Auburn here at number 8. Big presence in the middle of the defense. Help, shore up that defensive front. So, at number 9, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I know a lot of different scenarios have been kicked around with the Jaguars. Coughlin's out. I think that whole organization underneath Shad Khan is on thin ice. Seats hot for all of them. So they got to get this right. I don't think Gardner Minshew is the long-term answer there. But I don't think they're going to grab a quarterback here in the top 10 at this point, especially if those other 3 are already off the board. I think the next, the best quarterback does not warrant a top 10 selection. So whoever's under center obviously is going to need time to throw the football. So I think they're going to go offensive tackle here. And I think that they probably look at Mekhi Becton, the big tackle out of Louisville. Personally, for me, I'm not sold on this kid. A lot of people are very high on him, because of what he did at the Combine. Just because you are big and can run fast doesn't mean you're going to be a good tackle. Having, a decent 40 time as an offensive tackle does not make you, top 10 draft worthy, in my opinion. I think there's too many question marks in this kid's game. I think he relies too much on just his physical presence, which is not going to cut it at the NFL level. They're all physical presence at the NFL level. So there's that. But, hey, we'll see what happens. That's just my 2 cents on it. So I've got Mekhi Becton going to the Jaguars. Number 10, the Cleveland Browns. Everything I'm seeing have the Browns taking a tackle. I think this is a very deep offensive line class, and the way that the board has fallen here in this scenario, there is a player that has fallen right in Cleveland's lap that also is a need for the Browns. So I'm going to be one of those oddballs that do not have the Browns taking a tackle here, simply because of the way that the board has fallen. When you got a chance to get a talent like this, I don't see how you can pass up on it. And I've got the Browns taking the safety / linebacker out of Clemson, Isaiah Simmons. The kid is a baller, and he can do his versatility leads to some interesting scenarios for the Browns. In terms of what they can do with defensive packages. He gives them the opportunity to almost play kind of like a 5-2 front if they wanted to in a lot of situations, because he can drop back into safety if you need him to. He can drop down into kind of that linebacker enforcer spot if need be. If they turn around and run somebody out, he's athletic enough to run with them, whether it be a slot receiver or a tight end. So I like what he can do for them defensively, and I think Cleveland will be very lucky, and it would be very smart for them to grab Simmons should he be available for them at 10, and pass on the tackle, and come back and try and grab one, in the second round, potentially. So there's that. Next up at number 11, the New York Football Jets. Beckman's off the board. Wills is off the board. Do they grab, another tackle? You got Wirfs. Potentially, you've got Thomas. You've got Austin Jackson out of USC. I think all those would be a little bit of a reach at this point. Maybe worse, not so much, but I think they need weapons at this point. I think they can grab a tackle in the second. So I'm going to have them take a receiver here, and that is Oklahoma's CeeDee Lamb. I think he gives Darnold a dependable pair of hands to throw to. So there's that. So next up here, pick number 12, the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm going to be outside the box probably on this one. Most people probably have them taking something else, but I think, since they have 2 first-round picks here, I don't think Gruden is sold on Carr, so I think they're going to look for a quarterback here, and I think that they roll the dice a little bit since they've got 2 picks here and grab Utah State's Big Jordan Love, 6'4", 225. I think the measurables here are going to be too much for them to want to pass up on. So that's which way I've got them going here. Next up, the San Francisco 49ers, and a pick that they've got from the Colts on the Buckner trade. I think this was pretty much done by San Francisco to, free up cash and get younger on the defensive front. I think they did this with the thought process that, good D linemen would be available to them here at 13, which is the case. And then they're not going to lose a lot on that defensive front by making the move, because I think they're going to come around here and grab Javon Kinlaw out of South Carolina here at 13. It will allow them to get younger on the defensive front, free up some money on the defensive front as well. And then they can turn around and reinvest that money in some other positions. So that is that. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, probably, the most talked about team right now this offseason, due to acquiring the services of one Tom Brady. You bring in a quarterback, with the resume of Tom Brady, you gotta protect him. That's all there is to it. There's definitely some offensive weapons in Tampa right now, but they've got to get better on the offensive line. So I could see them going for Iowa's big Tristan Wirfs here at 14. Pick number 15, the Denver Broncos. A lot of different ways the Broncos could go here. Receivers in need, but honestly, I don't think that that's the direction that they will go in, want to go in, given that they also need some help, I think, in the secondary at this point. A lot of those guys have gotten older, and they're not the same defense that they used to be without having the secondary like they used to. So I could see them grabbing Florida's C.J. Henderson here at 15. Pick number 16, we have the Atlanta Falcons. I think, defense is probably the way the Falcons go here. Given that the way the board has fallen, I think the middle of the defense is where they need to worry. And I think the best option for them, probably looking at my board and who's still there, I think Patrick Queen, linebacker out of LSU. I think you can plug him in the middle and help solidify your defense in the middle there. Edge rusher is another possibility, but I think Queen just grades out a little higher. So, and it's also an area that they need to worry about. So that is where I'm thinking they go there. Next up, the Dallas Cowboys. New man in the head coach's seat there in Mike McCarthy. So, which way do Jerry Jones and company go? Because, ultimately this is still Jerry's team. Always has been, always will be, until such time as he decides for it not to be. They lost Travis Fredericks to retirement, but 17 seems kind of high for a center in this particular draft. I'm going to say that they look for an edge rusher here, and I have them taking Yetur Gross-Matos, the edge rusher out of Penn State. Kid is not flashy, but he's effective. So there's that. Next up at number 18. Miami Dolphins back on the clock. Um, they got Tua. Now I think you got to protect him. Um, I think that they're going to look at offensive line. Specifically, look for people that could potentially be left tackles, which lends me to think that they will probably grab Andrew Thomas out of Georgia here at 18, if all things pan out as they have thus far. And number 19, the Raiders are back on the clock. They shock some people, by taking the quarterback. Now I think that they look for some offensive weaponry, somebody to catch the football. They traded away Cooper a couple years back, so I think they need to find that electric receiver again. They're in position to do so here, and I could see them grabbing Alabama's Henry Ruggs III here at 19. All right, here number 20, the Jaguars are back on the clock. I had them pass on the quarterback at 9 to take a more quote-unquote surefire pick. I do not have them passing on a quarterback again. They took the tackle, and now they're going to come back and grab a quarterback here, even if they don't play him right away. And I think that it's less risky to take him here at 20 than to have spent a high pick, top 10 pick, given the top three quarterbacks were already off the board. So here at number 20, I have the Jaguars taking Jalen Hurts out of Oklahoma. A lot of mixed reviews on Hurts coming into this one, but when you saw him on the field, pretty much all the kid did when he was on the field was win. So, that's kind of the ultimate measuring stick in my opinion. So, next up, the Philadelphia Eagles at 21. I don't think you can take anything except a wide receiver for the Eagles here and have Eagles fans be happy. They've been clamoring for a wide receiver for a while, but I might shock some people with the wide receiver that I'm going to pick, and that is Laviska Shenault Jr. out of Colorado. Why am I picking him over some of the other wide receivers still on the board? There's something about the kid I like. He's got size. He's not super tall, but he's not super short. 6'2". He's got decent size, but he's not a rail either. At 220 pounds, he's a solid receiver. So he can box out some smaller corners with his size. Wasn't playing with the most elite quarterbacks in college, but I think the kid's got skills, and having a quarterback the caliber of Carson Wentz will pay dividends. Next up, the Minnesota Vikings. They moved on from Diggs. So what do they do now? I think they need to look at a receiver as well, and I've got them taking T. Higgins out of Clemson. Just talking about receivers and everything. Higgins is a taller receiver than Shenault at 6'4", but he's 20 pounds lighter. So he's 2 inches taller and 20 pounds lighter. So he's kind of thin framed. But they've got Minnesota's got those more height, weight, balanced receivers already there, so they can afford to take the thinner, more electric guy here. So there's that. 23. New England Patriots. Okay. Probably a lot of people have been looking at a quarterback here. Um, you know, I don't think that's going to happen, especially, if the quarterbacks that I've named are already off the board. It doesn't make a lot of sense for them to spend the 23rd overall pick on what would essentially be the sixth best quarterback in the draft. I think they'll probably look at the second round. They've got 2 picks there. Maybe they even package those and move back into the bottom of the first to do it. But I think here at 23, they just probably take the best player available. Still staring them on the board. It's a very Belichick move to do. And I've got them taking Grant Delpit, the big safety out of LSU. I think he could be their Patrick Chung again for the next at least 7 to 8 years. So at 24, the New Orleans Saints. I think they need to look defense. I think they need to shore up the middle of that defense. I think they need high character players there, whether that organization is built right now. And I think Kenneth Murray out of Oklahoma would be a great fit in the middle of that defense for the Saints. So next up, the Vikings are back on the clock. They took the receiver. Now I think that they look at a corner here, and I'm going to have them take Jalen Johnson, the cornerback out of Utah. He's big for a corner. 6 foot 193. You usually don't find a lot of corners in today's NFL that are 6 feet or taller. So big get for the Vikings there. The Miami Dolphins back on the clock yet again. Their 3rd pick of the first round. They took a quarterback. They took a tackle. Now I think they have an opportunity here to get an electric runner. And I think that they'll probably do so, and they'll grab DeAndre Swift, the running back out of Georgia. I think it's going to be interesting, that Swift comes off the board before, Jonathan Taylor. So a lot of people, before the draft evaluation began, thought Taylor was probably the, best back in the country kind of thing. And then to have Swift come off the board before Taylor's a more bruising back, in my opinion, whereas Swift has got a little more wiggle. So I think that they're going to go for, that athleticism over that bulk here. Now, you got Seattle Seahawks up at 27. Here is where I think Jonathan Taylor comes off the board. I think he can give them that beast mode mentality again that they had when Lynch was, running a roughshod over the NFL. Kind of bring that type of hard-nosed running style back to Seattle. 28, the Baltimore Ravens. Not a lot of holes on this team. I think, given where they're at, another receiving option might be the way they go. So looking at my list here, who's available, fits what they want to do. I could see them, Justin Jefferson out of LSU, I think fits. So that's that. Number 29, the Tennessee Titans. Vrabel's a defensive guy, so I think they might go defense here. Corner. I think corner is probably a good way to go for them. And seeing who's still available. How about TCU's Jeff Gladney to the Titans? Number 30, the Green Bay Packers. Needs both value and availability. How about Penn State wide receiver KJ Hamler to the Packers? I think, not the biggest guy, but good set of hands, and good route runner. Plus, I think he, can help contribute in the return game as well. San Francisco at 31 with their second pick. I think they stay defense here. And I think that they look at corner and Trayvon Diggs, corner out of Alabama. Again, big corner, 6'2". Seems like a fit for Robert Saleh's defense, in my opinion. And last but not least, at 32, the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. How about, there's not a lot of holes on this team either. Obviously, you won a Super Bowl. Probably the only area that I can see where they could do with a little more depth, probably running back. They haven't had that the same kind of running game since they had to let go of Kareem Hunt. So, how about Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of LSU? Shifty little speedster there. Would, be a good fit in Kansas City. So there you have it. There is my first round. Again, like I said, not projecting any trades. They're too hard to do. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of talk and disagreement with many of my picks, but hey, this is just, if it was me making it and I could do the whole 32, this is the way things would fall. And, it's just the way I think, and, I'm more than happy to discuss things, with people further. Please give the channel a like, share, subscribe, stay safe out there, and I will see you guys when I see you.